Over the last several days, I've been tracking the early access or the premium early access sales numbers for Avowed, as well as now that the game is fully released and out to everybody. What is this game doing? How is this game performing? And I want to break it all down for you, both on Xbox and on PC, because the Avowed sales numbers aren't great, but that's to be expected. This is an Xbox Game Pass game. And I said last year when all the Avowed drama was going down, there's going to be two interesting factors to see how it plays out. First, you're going to have the console warriors, which if you've just been following Xbox over the last, 18 months, you can continue to see that they're going to be publishing more and more of their games on PlayStation, and Avowed is probably going to be one of those games, if not all of their library. Time's going to tell. 2025 is going to be really interesting in terms of that development. But the other effect is Game Pass, because Game Pass means you don't have to sell your game. It's that Netflix of gaming. You have that subscription. And that is, I think, also playing a part here. But there's a lot that we can compare and we can contrast. And I want to highlight a handful of games, really demystify the numbers, break down my calculations for you, which have historically continued to be proven right. So I'm sure we're going to get some comments in today's video talking about how these numbers are fake and I don't know what I'm talking about. Those are always some of the most joyful comments that I get, because you just fast forward a couple months. Guess what? I was right again. While I do intend to show you guys the Xbox numbers here in just a few minutes, I want to start with the Steam chart numbers, because this is a really good base in terms of sale through, because on Steam, they've had to buy this game. This does not account for PC Game Pass gamers out there, but they're going to be included as a part of our Xbox number here in a bit. But you can see at this time of recording, a peak of 17,171. I do actually anticipate this going up, of course, over the weekend as more people have more time to game. But generally speaking, this weekend most likely will be the highest point that it hits, and then it will continue to kind of just get into this kind of nice little curve where it just has a couple, players, couple thousand players for a while, and then that dips off as they finish the game. It's also important to note, I've seen a lot of people online talking about, hey, it's the number X of the top sellers. That is a red herring. You should never go off of that. I know Colt Eastwood tweeted it out talking about how it is the Steam top sellers. This is always going to be a red herring because it doesn't truly represent itself. If you launched 3 of the best games this year all at the same time, which one would actually be the best seller? That's really what that means. There is no competition when this game is releasing, but you do have Monster Hunter Wilds coming shortly after, and it's going to eclipse what these numbers look like. Now, from just the Steam side alone, you're looking at a range of 120,000 to 188,000 gamers. This puts the game in a range after the Steam cut of just under 6 million to just around 9 million in revenue currently for the game. Again, this will climb up a little bit over time as there are sales, but when you look at a 4.5 year development cycle with roughly around 150 developers, which is what they had on Avowed, not the whole time, mind you, you're looking at anywhere from $70 million to $130 million, including marketing and overhead for their budget. Now, again, this is a Game Pass game, so it's not necessarily about selling, but there's one key thing we have to point to here. And we actually have that data. If we look back to Starfield, which was very hyped and a lot of marketing went behind that game, it was a really big performing game. You can see that it peaked at 330,000. This was also on Game Pass, but this means that a lot of players went out and purchased this game. This is very interesting to compare and contrast, because this roughly puts the game sales anywhere from 2.5 million to 4.5 million. And if we do my calculations on this, we look at actually 3.6 million units sold on PC on Steam. This does not include Game Pass on Xbox sales. This is a really big number for that game. So when we compare and contrast another RPG from the Xbox Studio team, well, it's clear to see that there was something that has happened over the last several years. And it could be that Starfield's impact and its reception has led to less and less people interested in actually purchasing this game and shifting more to Game Pass for its model. And to contrast this against Dragon Age the Veilguard, for example, we know that game hit around 1.5 million, which is exactly what I said it would do. But there's a few key differences. There's a few strengths that Avowed has actually over the Dragon Age the Veilguard, because namely, it didn't take 10 years to make. Dragon Age had an incredibly long development cycle. It cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and thus that made Dragon Age the Veilguard's failure even more catastrophic. Now, is Avowed a failure? It really depends on how Microsoft is truly trying to measure this game. As a product that will exist in its Game Pass subscription from now until they ever decide to take it out of the Game Pass subscription, which would, I think, be a real loss for players and for Microsoft, which basically is to say, I don't see that happening. The odds are incredibly low. Well, it's just going to be a part of that service. It's going to be something that adds value to a potential subscriber or to hold on to an existing subscriber. The other thing I want to do is compare and contrast to another recently released RPG, and we see Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 peaking out just under 260,000, and they have announced officially that they have sold 2 million copies, which is always interesting to see when developers share and celebrate these milestones. Obviously a game that's not a Game Pass, showcasing people are interested in action RPGs, but also are willing to open up their wallets for them. And I think that is one aspect that's happening. So that's how we can also kind of weigh our numbers that we're seeing for Avowed and kind of compare it to both Starfield and with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Also, it's important to note, I do think that Kingdom Come Deliverance will actually announce 3 million copies, and they could easily see it as a game that over time and with sales continues to sell decently well to gamers out there. All right, now let's talk brass tacks. This isn't just a Steam game. This is a Xbox PC, Game Pass game, and this is also a Xbox game. So it is on Xbox and it is on PC. So how does the player population look around there? And we actually do have insights into this. Now, we can go and look at true achievements, which represents roughly 10% of the player base. So if we look at the 26,730 players who have logged achievements for Avowed currently at the time of this recording, well, that number roughly translates to over 300,000 playing on Xbox and Xbox PC Play Anywhere. Not necessarily a small number, but this brings the total players just around 500,000 players currently. This number is going to, of course, rise up over the course of the next several weeks. So roughly speaking, if I was going to be very generous in terms of sales and players, well, over the course of the next month, this game might cap out at just under 1 million. I wouldn't be surprised if they ever do announce that, because Game Pass makes it so easy for anybody to sit down and play these kind of games and check it out and see if it's for them. But if you're just looking at those who have at least tried the game, you're looking at just right now, at the time of this recording, around 500,000 players across PC, Steam, and Xbox. So what went wrong with this game? I think there are many factors. I think obviously a lot of people are going to point to whatever kind of team they fall on when it's all said and done within this drama that is the online world of video game coverage and discussion. But when it's all said and done, I think we've seen a lot of factors actually at play. Namely, you have economic factors, you have time factors as gamers have gotten older, and most players just tend to kind of play some of their forever games. Like Minecraft still dominates, where in terms of looking for those action RPGs, you end up kind of finding something else. You also, I think, have the expectation that this was going to be their like additional Skyrim, but then it didn't necessarily live up to those expectations. So no matter what, expectations have been shattered. But I think also there is just this general fatigue around gaming and game marketing, and I do believe that the actions that the art director took last fall had a big impact. Now, I put out this unscientifically based poll over on Twitter asking if people were skipping it because of the art director's actions last year, and just under 50% voted yes out of 300 votes. Now, whether this ends up being reflective of the whole, we really won't be able to tell. But what's really interesting about this is that, and this is where my kind of heart goes out to everybody who's worked on any of these video games, is because you have this potential one person who ends up ruining the last 4.5 years of your effort. And a lot of bonuses for game development are usually related to sales. I don't know how Xbox does it with Game Pass subscriptions, because that's obviously something that really kind of allows these games not to have to sell because they're a part of this subscription package. But if players aren't really interested in checking it out, well, that could spell bad news. Over just under 30% said that they're playing, and then just around 22% said that they're really not, it's not their kind of game, which makes sense. That kind of checks out when all things are said and done. Now, Endymion, he says that with the pre-release Avowed set around 13K, at a full release, they only managed about 2K more, going up to actually 17, you know, obviously time has changed for the fully paid version Game Pass. He thinks it's pathetic that Game Pass has killed all of these games' value. One of the only Microsoft's games that sees doing well despite the Game Pass was Doom, because it's Doom. Everything else is eh. While it's clear that Game Pass does have an effect, when we compare this back to Starfield, for example, that was also a Game Pass game. So I think there is, and this highlights just a general lack of apathy when it comes to Microsoft games. I do think that when this game eventually comes to PlayStation, with their install base and the fact that those games are bought and paid for on Sony because you don't have Game Pass, well, I think we're going to see an uptick of sales at that point, with the game roughly again reaching 1 to 1.5 million, maybe a little bit more. We'll see how the PlayStation fans, whether they decide to show up or skip, depending on kind of their take and reviews when it's all said and done. But like I said, I think within gaming right now, there is both a fatigue, a general lack of like interest in a lot of different kind of games. And then when you also have your game sandwiched between two of the biggest action RPGs with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Monster Hunter Wilds, it's easy to say, you know what, I might just wait a week and then go play something else. And meaning that, you know, waiting for discount, waiting for sale, you know, ends up making a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people are opting to choose for that, especially with the price of eggs, especially with the just overall costs that we've seen incurred on us as human beings over the last 4 years. And so I think the economy is having an impact. I think people's time is absolutely having an impact. And then I think essentially we're seeing a lot of really great games come out. And so you have to ask yourself, are you going to pay $70 for a mid game? And I'm not trying to insult Avowed here. If you are loving it, awesome, continue to keep loving it. But that's the general impression that is given, that we have about the game, that it's okay, you know, like, and an okay game is okay. But when it comes to your hard-earned money, and more than your money, your time, are you going to put it in the Avowed bucket? Well, that's really the question that is up to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, sound off in the comments below, or you can always just join the discussion over on Discord. Top link in the description is there for you if you want to be a part of this community. Anyway, guys, thank you for your time today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Lots of numbers. We'll be breaking them down. A lot of interesting games coming out this year that are going to have some success, and we'll break it down and hopefully demystify what you end up seeing around the online discourse. Anyway, guys, take care. God bless you. Hopefully I'll see you next time, but until then, take care. I said take care twice. Take double care. Woo! Here we go. Boo, boo, boo. All right, let's see here. Just go look back now. No. All right. So I've been at just right out of the rip. All right. And to contrast this against fail. All of what? Jeez.